Hello, 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 and thank you once again for tuning in to Riding the Wave. You are listening to the Urban Surfer Glenn T. For those of you guys trying to reach out to me, you can find me on rtw.podcast. That is my Facebook. You can find me at Glenn_town, which is my Twitter, and ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com. Those are all the ways to reach out to me. If you want to find my show and just listen in, I am featured on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spreaker, and Spotify. More venues to come, website coming soon. So how is everybody doing out there today? Hopefully you guys are getting to where you got to go safely. You guys are staying in your own lanes and also thinking about some of the things I say. And remember, for you guys that are just learning a little bit about the Urban Surfer, these perceptions are certainly my own. These are my realities, my opinions. My mission is only to change one mind a day in a positive way. If I can do that, wonderful. Otherwise, I'll go back to the drawing board. You know I love you guys, and you know I just enjoy podcasting. For those people that want to feature me on their show, you can certainly do that. Again, I do have Facebook, Twitter, and Gmail account that you guys can reach out to me at. So, just jumping into the topic as usual. This one is a little bit not too much discussed, but I know it exists, right? It certainly exists. People do go through it, but it's detachment. Detachment, right? How many people experience detachment, right? Just not a part of what they're a part of. A lot of ways you can actually look at detachment. Some people can look at it as a reserved temperament or disposition. Some people could look at it as a form of depression. I mean, it all depends on, the kaleidoscope that you look through and how you perceive the world and yourself. But again, today's topic is detachment. What are some of the signs of detachment? I'm sure by now we can all identify with it because either we've done something in that order or we've seen it done to us or to other people, right? So let's just get right into there. What are some signs of detachment? And you know me, I'm going to go ahead and throw one out there. For me, the first sign would be a sign of numbness. Those vibes where you get from somebody who is just blah and very monotone. No real emotion connected there. Just, it doesn't matter. Excited or not, you can't tell, right? So that's one of the signs of detachment. You're talking to somebody and you can tell them the building's on fire, or you can tell them they just won $1 million. You pretty much get a nudge out of them either way, right? How many of you guys know somebody like that, right? Where they're just numb all the time. I mean, they can blame it on the rain. They can blame it on the experiences that they had. They can blame it on the past pain that they've been through. I'm sure they're the only one on Earth itself that has actually experienced these things. Either way, it gives you that sense of numbness and that monotone, that light melancholy type of feel, right? So you just kind of got that blah, jaded whole temperament, that disposition is pretty much even under all circumstances. There might be a sign that, you are detached a little bit, right? Any questions, suggestions, comments, you can always reach out to me. Again, rtw.podcast is my Facebook, Glenn_town is my Twitter, and ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com is the way to email me. So just continuing on, what are some signs of detachment, right? So we know just a real easy one, just picking the fruit from the tree, is numbness, right? You've seen people that just looks jaded, they act jaded. They're just, they're very blah people, right? No matter what, it's just always a very monotone disposition. Sometimes they have negative things to say, right, along with that disposition. Light little sign of, just some rudeness, things like that. It's just a quick sign of detachment. Don't want to be there, whether it's the conversation, the place, or whatever, right? So let me know. What are some other signs of detachment? Have you ever met a person that is just hard to figure out? Don't really talk much about themselves? I think that's safe to say that, you're pretty much not attached, because we know human beings are very social creatures. You're being talked to. People are curious about, what they see. You're the elephant in the room at times, right? So when it comes time to talk to you, you don't really do too much talking about yourself. You know, people are getting into themselves and talking all these details, and you got people standing at the edge of their seat. It comes around to you, spotlights on you, and you have maybe like 5, 10 words to say. Right? Quick sign, hey, this person might be detached. I don't know, right? Are they depressed? What's wrong with them? Or if you talk to this person, you just can't figure them out. Right? It's like one of those math problems at the back of the book. You know, when you done mastered every chapter already, they just throw you one that you can almost spell your name out of, right? Why is this person so hard to figure out? It's because they're not letting you figure them out. They're detached. They want to remain that way. If you ever run across a person like that, do yourself a favor and don't waste too much energy, right? Some people just want to be left alone. You have to see the signs. I mean, sometimes it's a calling, sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes a person's crying out for some assistance because they don't know how to ask for it. Other times a person is just selectively saying, leave me alone. It's a fine line, but you have to learn to read it. So we know, there's a couple of signs of detachment, right? And for all you just tuning in, my name is the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You are listening to Riding the Wave. And today's topic is just detachment. And we're just basically getting into some signs of it, right? You have that jaded, numb person. You have that person that's just always a mystery, don't talk much. What about that person that pushes you away all the time, right? You know, you try to get close. You may get them to talk. You may get them to see some signs of emotion, and guess what they do? They push you away. Sabotage, I call it, right? Now, under those circumstances, I wonder if it's just a fear of being hurt or just a fear of being known. You know, maybe you're a big hype, and when somebody gets to know you, you're just average Joe. You know, maybe the mystery you're keeping up just to, to kind of give you this sense of mystique, and, you know, it keeps people curious. You know, maybe it's not much to you, and you just want to hide behind this whole scenario that you created, right? But either way, people like this push people away. You know, everything could be peaches and cream. Everybody's hunky-dory, and, you know, as soon as you start getting a little edgewise, boom, you know, you get pushed away. How do you handle that, right? Is that even fair to the next person? And what do you do with a detached person, right? What if it's just that detachment where, you know, they might just feel bothered all the time? What do you do with them? Leave them alone for a little while. Sometimes you got to let people figure themselves out. You know, giving a person attention sometimes may be all they want, right? So once they get what they want, they can act any way. There's no risk reward for a person like this, right? They can walk around acting jaded, being slightly grumpy, pushing people away, not talking much, being mysterious. This person's detached. What happened to you? Huh? What did you go through that got you all bothered and wanting to be by yourself? Right? Everybody has problems, you know, but maybe you're just reserved, right? Maybe you're just a reserved person. Maybe it's not all about you being depressed and your back hunched over and things like that. Right? That kind of leads me to my next point. And again, for those tuning in, this is the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You are listening to Riding the Wave, and today's topic is detachment. We did go over some signs of just being numb and jaded. You know, some other signs of just kind of being a mystery and not talking up, not letting people know about you, pushing people away. These are all signs of detachment, not all inclusive, but certainly signs all the same. But is detachment always bad, right? Detachment gets a negative rap all the time, but sometimes you got to detach from things in a good way, right? How many people think that detachment is always a bad thing? Any suggestions, comments, questions? Definitely know how to reach me. But is detachment always bad? Let's think about this for a second. Right? Give yourself a scenario that you've been included in. Right? Give yourself a deep scenario, right? Something that you were involved in. what if it was a scandal or something like that, right? You was involved in a scandal. Now, say for instance, you took that same scenario and you just took the names off of it, right? Completely. Just took all the names out of it. Do you think you would still solve that same scenario identically? You ever had that situation where you have a friend who's just doing something silly, doing something stupid wrong? They might be seeing the wrong person. They might have a bad habit that you know they can kick or whatever the case is, and you can't seem to make sense to them for the life of you, right? Or you may agree with this wrongdoing or this wrong action because of the names. But now, if that situation were to present itself with a different set of names or no names at all, would you actually come up with the same response? Right? That's a good question. Would you come up with the same response? So maybe detachment isn't always bad. Maybe it'll allow you to be a little unbiased, right? I mean, judges do it all the time. Imagine a judge having an emotional connection to like a murder case or something like that, or to like a rape case or something, right? But they empathize with the murderer or the raper because of this emotion, right? Would you expect that to happen? So sometimes being detached creates an unbiased result, which isn't bad, right? It's more of an objective result. It's more of something that anybody can understand with or without emotion, right? So detaching yourself in that circumstance, I would think is not so bad. So now that I've paid a little attention to the bad detachment, it looks like we can kind of shed a little light on detachment that isn't so bad, right? Allows you to be a little unbiased. What about you being with a bunch of friends, right? You guys did everything together. Maybe homeboys or homegirls from the block. It may be college friends, people you met in Job Corps, old employment, whatever the case is, right? You guys are tight. Every time you guys hang out and see each other, you're up to the same old things, right? Same old, same old. You know, with the chicks or gambling or, smoking or drinking or whatever, right? Just wasteful thinking, right? Now, a person within this group wants to change their life. Maybe they had a couple of kids. Maybe they just had an offer for a new job, a career, something like that, where they just have to take life a little more seriously, right? Maybe they took on a new belief set, and it requires them to change some of their habits, right? Could this person take on this new job, take on these new set of moral beliefs, instill values in their children and things like that when they're out there ripping and running? I would say no. What do you think? But let's entertain it a little bit, right? So say this person is still hanging out, still doing all of these bad things, but they're trying to change their life. As a thinking person, would you suggest for this person to keep on juggling these lifestyles that are essentially in opposition to each other? Or would you tell that person to detach? Detach from the lifestyle altogether, right? Change your life. Isn't that a form of detaching? Because changing is letting go of something, which is detaching. So it seems like we're actually laying the groundwork to where detachment is not always bad, right? What if you have a difficult situation? God forbid, what if your mother falls ill or your father falls ill, right? Or your spouse or your child, and they're ill for a while, right? That would be a real emotional pain, right? Sometimes it'll be hard to get up in the morning. I mean, their pain will be causing you grief, and as it should, right? Usually people that are really close and dear to you, if anything happens to them, if you have any care or concern for them, you certainly will feel it's a bit difficult to cope with, right? So it's not really something that's abnormal, to say the least. But let's just lay thought to it for a moment. What if you have to take your mother to dialysis 3 times a week? And you love your mother. There's some days you may not want to get up because you just been crying the whole night, right? just been finished. I mean, just emotionally spent. How can you carry on providing care for the person that you want to get better if you're just an emotional wreck? Suggestions, comments? I would like to hear the solution to that, right? Because my thing is, I think you have to detach from the situation real quick, right? Doesn't mean you don't love your mother anymore. Doesn't mean you don't love your loved one or your child or whatever, right? But sometimes you have to back up so you can make those dialysis appointments 3 times a week. So you can take your child to speech class, therapy. You can go to counseling and not break down every time you're on the way in or coming out the door, right? Sometimes you have to step back emotionally just to see things to completion. How much easier would it be if you just looked at it as a task as opposed to the whole emotional connection? Kudos to people in the medical and the legal fields. Very difficult fields to do with emotion. You certainly have to detach, and I'm pro detachment, not all the time, obviously conditionally, but this definitely allows you to see through to your task, just see it all the way through. I'm sure some people have locked people up for life. Some other people have watched people die on their table, but they still continue to do their job, right? So, I mean, you can honestly see how detachment isn't always bad. And again, for those who are listening, this is the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You are riding a wave. Now, just to touch back on the detachment piece, we know that it's not always bad, but let's try to angle towards the bad detachment a little bit, just for the sake of this program, because I just wanted to stress a point. But how do you stop bad detachments, right? Those detachments where you're just feeling aloof and you're feeling numb and you're pushing people away and you're angry and rude. How do you stop this from happening? Let's just toss it out there. Identify the cause, right? What's causing you to be detached? Is it like something that broke your heart, or do you feel unappreciated? Do you feel picked on? I mean, what is it that's causing you to feel detached? Too much on your plate? So definitely identify the cause. That's definitely a start on how to stop being detached, right? You have to identify the problem. We all know that's how it starts. Start to redirect your focuses. Stop being so negative. Start redirecting your focus, right? So basically redirect your focus. You don't have to focus on the negative. Start to aim on the positive aspects of things, why things are happening. And maybe just understand the bigger picture. Take your mind out of the gutter and put it into the field where you see the flowers and the sun shining. Also, just simply believe good still exists. I mean, if you're still thinking about it, it still exists. Not everybody's bad. Not everybody's out to get you. Just realize that. Realize good exists. Be the change that you want to see, right? So don't worry too much about what other people are doing. You do the right thing. You stay focused. You stay positive. And you'll start to realize that you don't have to be detached to solve problems. Maybe just enough so you can get the unbiased approach, but you don't have to be detached because life happens to you. Be a part of life, not a byproduct. Again, this is the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You have been riding a wave. I do want to thank everybody for your support, your comments, your questions. Just continue to get to where you're going safely. Stay in your lane and continue thinking about some of the things that I say. Thank you again for tuning in. Be productive, be safe, and take care.